Well, it took a long time to diagnose me because it started in the beginning with I got sort of what seemed to me like migraine attacks. I got a bit dizzy. I found it difficult keeping my balance, headache and that sort of thing. And they treated me for that, you see. And then I went to see a specialist who thought it was, in Harley Street, who thought it was about sugar. My sugar levels were changing. And it wasn't until quite a long time later that I was with a friend in Bruges. It was a rather funny business. I was by the side of a canal, munching some chocolate. And then the next thing I knew, I was in an ambulance going to a hospital. And I remember the nurses in the ambulance were very, very worried because some brown slush was coming out of my mouth. And they wondered if my guts were coming out. And they didn't know what it was all about. So I managed to say in broken Dutch, "Nee, nemen heren, het is alleen een chocoladebar," you see. And but fortunately, a friend of mine was with me when it all happened, and he, when we got back to England, told the doctor and the specialist what it was all about, what had happened, and the specialist said, "Well, this is obviously, from what you've described, this is clear case of epilepsy, and that's that." And the first thing that happened, he said, "Could I have your driving license, please?" Because I couldn't drive anymore, you see. He didn't put it so crudely, but that's what it was. As it took me 4 or 5 times to get through my driving test. But I was rather knocked, but at the same time, it was obviously I couldn't carry on like that. The incident I told you at Bruges, which took place in the ambulance, I think must have been about 1980s.
How did you feel when you were diagnosed with the condition?
I didn't seem to mind because, you see, I never saw what I was like at all because I was obviously out. And I always remember coming to in hospital and they were doing some tapestry work on my scalp because the trouble with epilepsy is you fall down anyway, usually onto a hard curb. Your skull gets a bit shaken about, and it's being given a cup of tea and 3 biscuits. And very nice people they were there too. I think there were times in the 70s when I was backing out once or twice or 3 times, even every day. It coincided also with a period of very great stress in my life when a relationship of many, many years standing was breaking up, and I felt like death. And I suppose epilepsy, having an attack, was rather like opting out of life.
We hear from many people with epilepsy who feel there's a stigma surrounding epilepsy. Do you agree, and have you experienced any fear from anyone about the condition?
I never felt any stigma about it myself because it was just, I don't think of it as illness in that way. And actually I found that people were very, very nice about it. The only people who've had problems with epilepsy was I'm one of those fortunate people who get warning often about 5 minutes before I go under. And therefore I just usually time to ask some people, could they help me? Nearly everyone did, except 1 or 2 people, usually from far corners of the earth, who still had a fear of epilepsy as a possession or something like this, because it must look pretty awful to the bystander. You know, you change colour and you shake. I don't know really. I can't tell you much about how I look because I never watched myself.
How do you think we might be able to change this?
Well, I think now you've got a multi-ethnic society, and I think you should give children, from the word go, an account of it and what happens and why it happens, so they don't think of it as possession or something like that. I explain it to people rather like you put on the radio and there's fuzz on the line, and that's what happens. I think starts off with epilepsy. But actually, I found people very, very nice to me. One lady left me a £5 note because she thought I was drunk. But most people were extraordinarily nice. One of the things used to set me off was flickering neon lighting that used to happen quite a lot in supermarkets. I used to wear dark glasses when I went into supermarkets, so I must have looked like the Italian mafia wearing dark glasses in winter, you see. And that usually managed to deal with it, but I had to be careful in the underground stations because you had neon lighting there or electric or neon lighting, and that could flicker too, and therefore I kept away from the track. Once I had an attack in Kensington High Street, and And the next thing I woke up to find myself, finding myself spread along a chaise longue in the window of an antique dealer who was very, very nice to me. But I always remember how nice the nurses were when the doctor when I came to in hospital. And once again, my cup of tea and 3 biscuits. I used to want to go home straight afterwards, but sometimes they insisted I stay there because they wanted to make sure about me. And it was like a wonderful rest. The Indian chap in the cubicle next to me gave me vegetarian Indian cutlets, and everybody rallied round and sort of gave me bits of toilet and shaving tackle, and I was very touched by it all. But I have a lot of sympathy, especially for those people who don't get warning like I did.
Finally, Rabbi Lionel, you've lived a very successful and full life. Do you have any advice for other people diagnosed with epilepsy who want to do the same?
Yes, and my advice would be open about it. Tell everybody the situation. People are interested, and a lot more are susceptible to epilepsy than they realise or than they want to realise. Lots of epileptics have been very, very distinguished in the past. We're a very talented body as a whole. I've got very great admiration for the work of the Prince's Fund, which helped people with disabilities to get good jobs. But if you're open about it and tell people about it, they're actually very interested. And it takes away the old stigmas of it.